He's been a preacher, a monster, and a nightmare in a mask. Every time Bray Wyatt stepped into WWE, he came back as something completely new. No wrestler reinvented themselves quite like him, and every version pulled fans deeper into the unknown. 1. Husky Harris. Before the lanterns and riddles, before the eerie songs and cryptic promos, Bray Wyatt first stepped onto WWE TV as someone fans barely recognized, Husky Harris, the heavy-hitting rookie of the Nexus. He wasn't presented as a future mastermind or a supernatural threat. He was the bruiser of a rebellious pack, a stocky, hard-charging enforcer thrown into chaos with one mission: cause damage fast. And even in that early role, you could see pieces of something deeper hiding underneath. In the ring, Husky Harris moved far differently than he looked. He had surprising speed for his size, crashing into opponents with short-burst tackles and that wild running senton that became his signature. A detail many fans don't realize is that the first version of Bray's character had almost no promos because WWE didn't see him as a storyteller yet. He was hired muscle, not the mind behind the madness. Watching him back then feels like watching a performer trying to break out of a box that didn't fit him, waiting for a chance to speak instead of just charging forward. And that's what makes this era so interesting. WWE kept calling him a tank with a Ferrari engine, but the persona never let him show the creativity he had bubbling under the surface. He took orders in the Nexus, followed Wade Barrett's chaos, and did exactly what the group needed: a role player with a powerful frame and almost no voice. But even in that limited space, the intensity was there. The glare, the conviction, the sense that this character wasn't the final form. Eventually, Husky Harris faded from TV, written off after a brutal punt from Randy Orton, and when he disappeared, fans assumed he was gone for good. But what came next wasn't a return, it was a rebirth, deep in the swamps. 2. Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt. When Husky Harris vanished, nobody expected what came next, because his return didn't feel like a repackaged wrestler. It felt like a brand new entity had crawled into WWE from somewhere far outside the company's usual world. Deep in NXT's early reboot, Bray Wyatt appeared in a rocking chair, lit by lantern glow, speaking in slow, hypnotic riddles about monsters, sin, and salvation. This wasn't a wrestler trying a new gimmick. This was a character built with layers, purpose, and a voice that demanded attention. He talked like a Southern cult preacher, moved like a man possessed, and laughed like he already knew the ending of every story. And even before he wrestled a single match, Bray had fans hooked. His promos didn't sound scripted, they sounded like sermons. He wasn't trying to win matches, he was trying to convert the world to his philosophy. That's why this era felt so different. Bray Wyatt wasn't just a persona, he was an ideology. In the ring, this version blended awkward power with unexpected finesse, almost like the chaos inside him dictated his movement. But the magic was in the presentation. Few fans realized the original Bray character was inspired by real Southern cult leaders, right down to the cadence of his voice and the eerie calm he used before exploding with violence. The charisma he never got to show as Husky Harris was unleashed here, finally matching the performer to the character he was meant to portray. He spoke about following the buzzards, about monsters inside him, about a world full of liars and false prophets. And slowly, his philosophy hinted that he wasn't alone. There were brothers waiting in the dark, listening to the same whispers he did. And those whispers became reality the moment his family stepped into the light. 3rd, Wyatt family leader. When the Wyatt family finally arrived on the main roster, it didn't feel like a debut. It felt like an invasion. The arena went dark, the audience went silent, and 3 figures walked through the smoke. Bray in his fedora and Hawaiian shirt, lantern in hand, followed by the towering Luke Harper and the masked, unsettling Eric Rowan. They weren't presented as wrestlers. They were disciples, soldiers of a twisted belief system that Bray preached like gospel. Bray's sermons became the backbone of the faction. He spoke in metaphors that blurred the line between prophecy and threat, promising to expose the false idols of WWE. And what made this era so hypnotic was how different it felt from everything else happening on TV. His promos were filmed in the woods, in barns, in crumbling shacks lit only by fire. Every message felt like a warning, and every entrance felt like a ritual. In the ring, the family operated like a pack. Harper delivered the violence, Rowan brought brute force, and Bray picked his moments, saving his twisted theatrics for when they mattered most. A detail many fans miss is that the original Wyatt family entrance music was created using slowed-down instruments and reversed audio to mimic the sound of a backwoods revival gone wrong. Everything about them, music, lighting, posture, worked together to make them feel less like a faction and more like a cult spreading through WWE, one victim at a time. Their feuds with Kane, John Cena, and The Shield proved how adaptable they were. Every rivalry felt cinematic, like Bray was dragging his opponents into his world instead of fighting in theirs. And whether he won or lost, Bray always made sure the story belonged to him. But even a cult eventually needs to evolve, and Bray was ready to step deeper into darkness. That evolution began when he tried to become the new face of fear itself. 4. New face of fear. Bray Wyatt. When the Wyatt family began drifting apart, Bray didn't shrink, he grew more dangerous. This was no longer a preacher recruiting followers. He became a lone prophet, speaking in darker imagery, referencing demons, spirits, and the idea that he wasn't just a man, but a vessel for something ancient. In the ring, his style shifted too. Bray stalked opponents like a predator, his spider walk crawl one of WWE's most unsettling visuals. Every move felt calculated to break minds before bodies, and his rivalries with The Undertaker, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns proved he could be both psychological and physical terror. During this era, WWE experimented with lighting changes and audio effects to amplify his supernatural presence, ideas that would later shape The Fiend. This phase marked a major shift. Bray wasn't chasing followers anymore, he was chasing power. The sermons faded, threats grew louder, and the WWE Universe realized he was building a legacy. And before we dive into his championship run, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss a breakdown of wrestling's greatest transformations. That legacy reached its first pinnacle the moment he stepped inside the Elimination Chamber. 5. WWE Champion Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's evolution reached its first pinnacle when he captured the WWE Championship. The same man who had once lurked in the shadows of the Nexus was now standing tall at the top of the company. Winning the Elimination Chamber wasn't just a title victory. It was the validation of years spent perfecting his character, proving that his voice, presence, and darkness could dominate not just matches, but entire storylines. As champion, Bray balanced his chilling promos with a more controlled in-ring style. He wasn't just unpredictable, he was methodical, knowing when to unleash his devastating sister Abigail or capitalize on psychological warfare. His feud with Randy Orton became a masterclass in storytelling, blending mind games with brutal athleticism. Fans watched in awe as Bray's cinematic presence translated directly into match psychology. Every stare, every pause, every sinister grin served a purpose. One detail that often goes overlooked is that during his WWE Championship run, Bray occasionally used pre-recorded cryptic messages in his promos, early hints of the psychological layers that would later define the Firefly Funhouse and The Fiend. It wasn't just promos, it was world building, and it left fans guessing what was real and what was part of his twisted mythology. But even as he stood as champion, Bray felt constrained. The story wasn't over. The next transformation demanded a departure from traditional wrestling tropes, a move into a world where nothing and no one could be trusted, including himself. And that world came alive in a way fans had never seen before with the Firefly Funhouse. 6. Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt. After his WWE Championship run, Bray Wyatt took a sharp left turn into unexpected territory, the Firefly Funhouse. On the surface, it was bright, colorful, and childlike, but beneath, it crawled with menace. Puppets, cheerful songs, and surreal vignettes masked the darkness in every corner. This was Bray, at his most complex, charming, terrifying, and constantly bending the audience's expectations. Inside the funhouse, he explored his psyche like never before. He laughed, sang, and danced, but the subtext was always sinister. Each puppet or recurring character represented parts of himself, his fears, and even the wrestling industry. The segments were inspired by 1980s children's programming, but twisted deliberately to unsettle adult audiences, creating Bray's signature mix of charm and dread. Every promo hinted at a growing split, the playful host versus the monstrous entity lurking underneath. This era let Bray manipulate narrative in new ways. He could dominate opponents in the ring while haunting fans in their minds, proving he was no longer just a wrestler. He was a storyteller, controlling tone, emotion, and reality itself. And when the lights dimmed and shadows crept in, the childlike host gave way to a nightmare the world would come to fear. 7. The Fiend. When Bray Wyatt transformed into the Fiend, WWE horror became reality. Gone was the warm, even unsettling host of the Firefly Funhouse, replaced by a masked, twisted alter ego that embodied every nightmare lurking in the corners of the arena. The Fiend wasn't just a wrestler. He was a force of nature, an unstoppable embodiment of Bray's darkest imagination. Every entrance felt like a cinematic event. Flickering lights, smoke, distorted music, and the horrifyingly grinning mask sending chills through the audience before he even touched his opponent. In the ring, The Fiend was a perfect blend of Bray's cerebral psychology and monstrous physicality. Matches were less about traditional storytelling and more about fear, intimidation, sudden attacks, and overwhelming power. A detail fans often miss is that the mask itself was designed with subtle asymmetry to create a sense of unease. Even when The Fiend stood still, the distorted features triggered a primal reaction, making every stare feel personal. This wasn't just performance, it was psychological warfare. The Fiend feuded with legends and current stars alike, turning every storyline into a clash of worlds, ordinary wrestlers versus a horror icon who played by no rules. And yet, even in the chaos, there was a method. Every Sister Abigail, every mandible claw, every horrifying smile built a mythology that made fans fear and respect him simultaneously. But every monster story has more than one chapter. Even The Fiend was not the final evolution. As Bray explored new dimensions of his psyche and introduced the enigmatic Uncle Howdy, the WWE Universe realized the horror was far from over. And with that, the shadows stretched further, bringing Bray Wyatt back in ways no one saw coming. 8. Uncle Howdy and the Return. After The Fiend's reign, Bray Wyatt returned with a new layer of mystery. Uncle Howdy, a shadowy, cryptic figure, teased fans long before Bray himself reappeared, blurring the line between reality and fiction. Who was real? Which version of Bray would show up? The suspense alone kept the WWE Universe guessing. When Bray returned in 2022, he combined the dark charisma of The Fiend with the surreal storytelling of the Firefly Funhouse. Matches and segments referenced past personas while building something unpredictable and eerie. He wasn't just a wrestler anymore. He was a living myth, with Uncle Howdy amplifying the tension and mystery in every promo. Interestingly, Uncle Howdy was never fully explained, leaving fans debating online for months whether he was symbolic, supernatural, or even a separate character. That uncertainty became part of Bray's power, proving his storytelling could grip audiences without a single physical strike. Even in his final run, every persona, from Husky Harris to Uncle Howdy, showcased his unique ability to reinvent himself while keeping fans captivated. Out of all these versions, from Husky Harris to The Fiend and Uncle Howdy, which Bray Wyatt do you think left the biggest mark on WWE? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into wrestling's most unforgettable transformations.